Let's just pray together. Father, thank you for your presence with us. We ask for that breath to come this morning to breathe into us, to experience something we need to experience. It's your goodness. We don't need to understand it this morning. We need to experience it. Give us signs and pictures of your faithfulness to us. Empower us to hear from you and move us into a place of connecting directly with you. Because you're here and you haven't changed. And we give you thanks and praise. Amen. A few weeks ago, I was on YouTube. I was watching some videos of people winning the lottery. I'm not sure why. But I was watching them win the lottery, and what I was interested in was their reactions when they heard the news that they won the lottery versus like how long it took them to realize that it happened. So they understood what was happening logically. Sir, you won $20 million. I won $20 million? Yeah, you won 20, okay, so these 3 cherries mean I've won? Yeah, you've won 20, you're a million, I'm a millionaire? Yeah, it was just this interesting thing where they were hearing something, but in their head they understood it, but their heart was having a hard time believing it. They had a lot of experiences of losing the lottery. And so there was this unwinding, this collision that was occurring of my past reality meeting the present moment, and every time that happens, there's a choice for us to make. I remember when me and my wife first started coming to this church, we came face to face with the reality of this church, because this church talked quite a bit about the goodness of God, this song that we just sang. And for most of my Christian life, I would say I knew that in my head, but my heart didn't really believe it. Like my emotions didn't always believe that because of some things that have happened in my life. And what we were experiencing was that our past was meeting a present opportunity for something. When our past experiences collide with our present reality that's coming to us, that's facing us, we're left with a choice. We're left with this choice to either embrace that new reality without really fully understanding it or feeling it, in hopes to discover more of it, or we're left with the other choice, which is to choose to try to control my reality, to try to control my circumstances, to control things, to protect what I believe, protect my heart, to protect me from changing. And so we're left with a couple of those things. We have this thing that we love to do. We love to control. We love to control things. You have probably experienced trying to control your spouse. That does not work good, right? That does not work good. Trying to control our kids, trying to control our work situations, that always has this painful thing that kind of comes to it. But we have this, I think, this love-hate relationship with it. We continue to do it. Why? Because we hate to feel powerless. We hate to feel helpless. Just a week ago, everybody in this room was powerless. Literally, right? Powerless, no power, no electricity in your house. You couldn't flick a switch. I couldn't adjust my thermostat. No matter how much I wanted to flush, what is it? If it's yellow, let it mellow? No, Chris, do not. So, no power and feeling in a state of helplessness, hoping that somebody could come. There's a few of us in this room today that there's a deeper level of helplessness, of powerlessness, and God's here, and we want to talk about it. That state of being helpless, powerless, is a state that Israel, the people of God, had experienced for generations. When will somebody come to deliver us out of this? When will somebody come and fix this? To get us out of this, to make it better, to deliver us, turn the power on. Turn the power on. Who's going to come with the power? And they had this name for this person coming, and he was called the Messiah. And he was going to come, and bring power to people, deliver them from their things, plaguing them. And for us, it's easier for us to understand in our little circumstance of not having electricity. How are we going to know when the hydro guy shows up? How are we going to know when the chosen one shows up? This is a real problem they had as Jews. When will we know that the Messiah has come? For us, we know the hydro guy's here. When the power comes on, he's here. But the Jews had some things that this book was telling them about what the Messiah would come and do. And there's particularly 4 signs for them to recognize the chosen one, signs of the chosen one. 4 miracles. If somebody comes and does this, this is the chosen one. There's, movies of the chosen one, Luke Skywalker. There's some typical ones, Neo of the Matrix, or Stranger Things, 11. Some of these people that come, this is all a redemptive thing. This is like, it came from somewhere, and it's the story about the real chosen one, the Savior, who can actually deliver you. And we need that. But how will we know? As the Jewish people, how will we know that he's here? So there was 4 miracles in particular. If these happened, you would know that he's here. And so the first one was that when the chosen one come, he was going to come and heal an Israelite of leprosy. Not since the time of Moses has this happened. Jesus mentions Naaman, but that was a Syrian, he says. And so they've been waiting generations for this to happen. Jesus shows up on the scene. The chosen one comes and he heals lepers in Israel all over the place. He heals 10 lepers, and he says, now go show yourself to the priests. What's he trying to do? He's trying to get them to see, hey, the chosen one is here. Go show yourself to the people who can recognize this sign. I'm here. And only 1 leper comes back. I wonder how that exchange went between the lepers who were healed and the people who were the priests. The second thing that the chosen one would do when he came is that he was going to heal someone who was born blind. There was a belief that if someone was born blind, if a child was born blind, God didn't do that, so then either his parents sinned or maybe there's a way a baby can sin in the womb. This is some of the beliefs they had. Jesus shows up and says, wrong, wrecks their theology, heals them, and he heals this man born blind. And it really messes with the Pharisees. They are upset. This is like Jesus has done some miracles, but this one really cheeses us off, because if this is true, then he's the Messiah. You know what? And they bring his parents in and they make a big deal about it. And the third miracle that the Messiah could do was that he was going to raise somebody from the dead who's been dead more than 4 days. They had this teaching that the spirit would be close to the body for about 3 days, but after 4 days it goes to be with God. Jesus comes, he hears Lazarus is sick, he waits till he's dead 4 days. You ever wonder why he waited? He waits 4 days, he shows up, and he resurrects Lazarus. I'm here. A few chapters later, the Pharisees are trying to kill Lazarus. Last miracle, the fourth miracle that only the Messiah, the chosen one, could do, is that when he came, he was going to heal a deaf and mute person. Nathan talked about this last week, and this is the context I wanted us to understand. The signs have been given. Jesus comes and heals a deaf mute because the belief was the only way you could cast a demon out of somebody was that you would need to get the name of that demon, and then they would have to hear a higher name to be delivered from that demon. And that was the teaching. You got a problem there. How are you going to get the name if he can't speak? How are you going to hear the name of the one to deliver him if he can't hear? Jesus comes, he does it, sets them free. They freak out. And they start changing their theology. I guess he's using the name of Beelzebub, not the holy name of God. They don't want to recognize what's right in front of them. They're trying to control their beliefs. Their hearts are hard. But this happens, and there's a group of people that start going, is this him? Is this the chosen one? Is he here? And you ever wonder why thousands of people, like 20,000 people, follow Jesus into the middle of nowhere? Because they started to see the signs, and they started to ask this question, is this the chosen one? Is this the one to deliver us? Is this the son of David? And so this is where we dive into the text today. Jesus is about to multiply food in the desert. And we'll pick this up in Mark 8, starting in verse 1. And it says this: about this time, another large crowd had gathered, and the people ran out of food again. Jesus called his disciples to them. I feel sorry for these people. They've been here with me for 3 days. I'd feel sorry for you guys if I was preaching for 3 days. And they have nothing left to eat. So if I send them home hungry, they're going to faint along the way, for some of them have come a long distance. So Jesus sees their need, and you need to see this about God. He sees your need. He has compassion on you. He wants to meet you there. His disciples replied, how are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in the wilderness? How are we going to do that, Jesus? There's thousands of people. How are we going to do that? And Jesus replies, how much bread you got? 7 loaves, they replied. Have you ever tried to solve a miracle problem with logic? It don't work so good. I remember that. I remember the first time I prayed for somebody in Winnipeg who had a blind eye, and suddenly they could see. And I had it on video. And I remember driving home from that experience, watching the video over and over again, excited, wow, God did this. But I was trying to get my heart to believe something. I believed in the moment, but I started losing my belief. And so I'll watch the video and I'll try to convince myself that this happened. But I tell you, the more I watched the video and the more, by the time I got home, I actually didn't believe. I was wrestling with it. I was like, you know what, maybe it didn't happen. I just heard that in my natural mind. I heard, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe she was just trying to be nice. Maybe she was just going along with it. Maybe it was like placebo effect. Like maybe she could see for a moment, but actually she can't now. And that was all wrestling against this thing that happened. And I just decided I'd make a choice. By the time I got home, I was like, I don't care what I think happened. God, I believe you did it. I believe you did it. And so I just choose to believe in him and his goodness and that he did it. When I did that, it changed something in me that helped me to pray and believe for more things in that. It also helped me understand my natural mind, and it understands some scriptures a little better. In Romans 8:7, it talks about your natural mind, the way that you would normally think, your carnal mind. And it says that it's not actually subject to the laws of God. It does not understand God. It's not subject to his laws, nor can it be. And for most of my life, I spent trying to convince my natural mind to believe the things of God. You need to understand this. You need to believe it. And it never worked. I would still have that heart that wasn't entering into it. So what I did notice is when I chose to exchange that old mind for a new mind, a mind of belief, then my heart could suddenly come alive. It's like I had new eyes to see things. In Romans 12:2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That word for renewing actually means to exchange for something better. And I just said, I'm not going to try to use my natural mind to understand this stuff. I'm going to embrace the mind of belief, the mind of Christ, receive a new mind, and I'm just going to choose to believe. I'm stopped trying to reckon that mind to believe. And so I think Jesus is doing something here in this story where there's a real context of what's happening. They're in the middle of the wilderness, and he's trying to get them to see something, not with their natural eyes, but with their spiritual eyes, their heart. And it's a prime opportunity. I think Jesus is being playful. They're in the wilderness, and the disciples are going, where in the wilderness can we get food to eat? You guys remember that story? I think Jesus like, hey, remember Moses feeding the people, God feeding people in the wilderness? Here we are. Remember that story about Elijah taking the bread and he had 20 loaves and he fed 100 people? Remember that, guys? So he sees this opportunity and he's going to try to provoke them into this place of belief. And he does it in an unusual way. He answers their question with another question. He says, how many loaves do you have? Have you ever had like a teacher, like you ask a teacher a question and they answer back to you another question? I'm like, no, I'm asking the questions, okay? I need an answer from you. And they're trying to get you to discover something. Have you ever asked God a question and he answers back with another question? When Clue number one, when you ask God a question and he answers back to you with another question, he's trying to get you to see something about yourself you can't see. He's trying to bring you into something, become self-aware. And there's another clue. Clue number two, when you ask God a question and he answers that question by something he's told you before, he's trying to get you to see something about him. Jesus does both with this question. How many loaves do you got? He actually asked the same question just 2 chapters ago when he multiplied bread in the wilderness before. Jesus has done this miracle before. They're in the wilderness again. They're asking about bread, and he is trying to get them to see him. So he does this miracle. I'll break it down for us. It'll be easier. The disciples have 7 loaves of bread. He says, bring them to me. Jesus takes the bread. They put it in his hands. He blesses the bread. I don't know if it's something like this. He breaks the bread. He gives it back to his disciples. And as they go, the bread multiplies. The fish multiplies. The miracles of God always are there to reveal the nature of God. Every miracle Jesus did was to reveal who the Father was. In his character, in his nature, in his heart. When you see me, you see him. So when he provides for them, for this place, he is showing them that this is the God who provides for you. He is Jehovah Jireh. He is the provider, the Lord who provides. But he's doing something revolutionary in this moment, and he's breaking their theology of saying, the God you believe in is not the God in the sky who occasionally gives you provisions like he's a stingy God. No, this is the God who meets you in the wilderness. This is the God with you. This is the God Emmanuel right in front of you. And I'm here to meet you in your mess and feed you. I'm here for you, and I'm here to give you more than what you are expecting, what you can even see with your natural eyes. Because your natural eyes will never see the bread blessed. Your natural eyes will never see how you're going to get out of your mess or your situation. You're going to need your spiritual eyes to come awake. And the only way you can do that is to see the nature of God and put your faith in his heart and how he is. He does this miracle. He reveals that he is the provider. He's getting them to put their hope not in the provision, but put their hope in him, the provider. He's breaking theology that says, this is Jehovah Stealer. And he comes, no, I'm Jehovah Healer. I come to do this for you. We think of a stingy God, like I won't have enough. And he says, no, I'm not Jehovah Miser. I'm Jehovah Provider. I am him. I am the bread of life. Nothing else can satisfy you. It's me. It's me. It's not the stuff. It's me. But we have some yeah buts about his character and his nature. Yeah, but God, if that's true, but if, and the yeah buts just reveal that we haven't understood who he is. We don't trust his heart. And if we can't trust him, we have to negotiate with him. We start to negotiate with God. We start to negotiate terms with him. God, if you do this, I'll do this. God, if you don't do this, I'm not in. I'm not doing it. No way. I live most of my Christian life this way. Just like, God, if you do this, I'll follow you. And if you don't, I'm out. And that's just a sign of control. It's a sign that you have to control God because you can't actually trust him, and so you demand signs from him. And there's a group of people in the Bible that constantly demanded signs of Jesus. They're called the Pharisees. In verse 11, they come to meet Jesus after this miracle, and they say this, when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had arrived, they came and started to argue with him, testing him, demanding that they show him a miraculous sign to prove his authority. When he heard this, he just sighed deeply. Why? Why do you need another sign? I tell you the truth, I'm not going to give you another sign. And then he leaves. The truth is, he already gave them a sign. The truth is, he constantly was revealing. The deaf and mute had just been healed. People were following him. And these Pharisees show up with this hard heart and say, now you give me a sign. Give me another sign. And it doesn't matter how many signs you're going to put out there. If you've got a hard heart, you can't put your faith into God, you will never believe God. You cannot convince your natural mind. It is hostile to God. You're going to have to put your trust in his nature and in his character. I was thinking about this, how I can kind of negotiate with God terms. And I had a question come into my mind, and I feel it was God. And he asked me this question. He's like, who else tempted Jesus with a sign in the wilderness? Give me a sign. If you are the Son of God, turn this stone to bread. If you are the Son of God, throw yourself off the cliff. Let the angels catch you. Satan did that. And I start to move into the realm of darkness when I start to demand things. I start to become like a Pharisee when I manipulate the rules. And I become like a Pharisee, just becoming a master of a loophole. What was Satan's big sin? Satan's big sin was he wanted to be God. God shows up in the garden. He says, here's the fruit. Trust me, don't eat this. It'll bring death to you. Don't eat of this fruit. Satan says, eat the fruit. If you do, you get to decide what's good and evil. You get to decide what the rules are. You get to decide what's good for you and what's not good for you. Not God's ways, your ways. Isn't it sin always occur when we start to decide what's good for us and manipulate the rules versus what God says is good for us? If we live in the life being a Pharisee, not being able to trust God, number one, like a Pharisee, you're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to need one more thing from him. You're looking for the provision and not his presence. The second thing is that you won't be able to see the obvious. The obvious that this good God is here. And you're going to call things that are evil good and things that are good evil. And the third thing is, if you can't put your faith and trust in God, you're going to start to manipulate the rules and exempt yourself from his ways. And we all find little ways to do that sometimes. So here's some questions, I think, for some self-discovery for us to test and see where we are at with him. Think about this. Number one, are we trying to control our stuff? Our relationships, our spouses, our finances? Are we trying to control our stuff because deep down we believe God's holding out on us? That he won't show up? That he won't come for you? Do you need to hang on to the reins? Number two, are we manipulating the rules to exempt ourselves in his ways? You know, God gave me this house, and God, thank you for this house. But you know, our mortgage payments are pretty high now that we have this beautiful new house. And you know, for a season, I'm just going to not tithe because once I catch up a bit, I'm gonna give that to you. You know, God, I'm a man of God, and so, you know, my kids, I've dedicated them to you. I'm paying for Christian education, and so that's going to be my tithe for you. And we manipulate the rules because what does it reveal? We just don't trust his heart. What are you maneuvering around? Third question, do I need something from him other than his presence? You know, when I get that job, God, that I'm going to have, that's it. You know, God, when this happens in my life, I'm all in. And we want stuff out of his hands, and we struggle to see his heart. And if you have any of those things going on, that's just a real thing. I have to go there myself. And last thing if those things are there, maybe you haven't settled the debate in your heart about if you can trust him. Maybe his character is still up for debate. You know, my wife and I, when we started coming to this church, the goodness of God thing came and we had to do something, embrace it or control our reality. And we decided to do this. For most of our life, we had this phrase, God is good, ? Like we knew he was good, but really I just don't think I can go there because of my experiences. And we just made a choice one day and we just said, you know what, we're going to just say God is good, period. I'm telling you, the moment we put that period there, when we made that choice, it was just within weeks I started to see the goodness of God in my entire life. For 2 years, that's all my wife and I learned was about his goodness. God is good. See, there I was good, Chris. Hey, as you're struggling to have kids, Chris, I'm good. I have hopes for you. I have dreams for you. I'm not giving up on you. As you lost your dad, Chris, I'm there. I am ready. I'm a redeemer. I'm making this better than you think. And I just saw his goodness. I could finally see. It's like scales fell from my eyes when I made the choice. I could not get my natural mind to believe that through my whole life. We just decided to end that debate. And my wife and I, we learned the best theology I've ever learned in my life. But even out of Bible school, I've learned the best theology just out of that experience in 2 years. I learned God good, devil bad. Oh man, that is some good, deep stuff, I'm telling you. I eat from that every day. When I see good things happen in the world, I can now go, God, that's you. And when I see the darkness coming and when I see the bad go, I go, that's the enemy. That's not you, God. And I go after that with the heart of God. And I'm saying, I'm coming for that thing. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to step into it. It's not him. It's the devil. And I get a choice on what I want to do with that. You're good. The debate's over. In Acts 10:38, it says, Jesus went about doing good, destroying every work of the devil. When I see him raise somebody up from the dead, I go, that's God. When I see somebody who is struggling with sickness in their life, I go, that's the devil. I'm coming for you. We're praying for you. We believe God for you. In the mess, I believe God for you today. Whatever you're going through, I believe in his goodness. You might not be able to understand it, but you will. It's coming. So we were going to enter into communion here. And I want us to move into it a little bit. Communion is a great surrender moment. I'll invite the band up. Yeah. It's the sign of Jesus. It's his body. It's his blood poured out for us. It's his life. You get to hold it in your hands. You get to ingest it. You get to experience it again, even if you're struggling to know anything more than that he's here. If you need another sign, I don't know if there's another sign that's given. I mean, it's been given. I give my life for you. I've given everything for you because I love you. I will always love you. When you hated me, I loved you. When you doubted me, I loved you. When you were for me, I loved you. When you were against me, I loved you. I've always loved you. I will never stop loving you. So you get a choice today on this issue. Are you going to, as we sing this song, are you going to put a period on the end of that sentence, God is good? Or are you going to let that question mark remain? I'm okay wherever you're at, but I want you to put something in his hands today that you fearing loss, that you're not trusting him with. And that can happen through communion. In this song that we're going to sing, we're going to come up, we're going to take the elements. There's going to be a slide in just a minute. And before we do that, I'm just going to say thanks to Nipawa. God bless you guys. But for us in this song, we're singing this song called King of My Heart. And it goes, God, you're good, good, good. And then there's this part where it says, you're never going to let me down. I'm not asking you to experience a lot of joy in that. I'm asking you to look back at your life to find where he's been good to you. And to move into a place of saying, God, I'm making a choice today. I don't understand what's going on with my heart, but I'm just going to choose this in expectation to hope I might see your goodness again. Sing it from that place. As you come and take the elements, I'll come back and we'll do it together. What is the thing that you're fearing, boss, if you give it to him? Or what is the thing that you need from him in order to be satisfied? These expectations, we need these stuff from you. It needs to go a certain way, God. I need you to release that control and put it in his hands. It's going to bless your life. So you can move away from your provisions, looking at his provisions, and look to him as being a provider, look to his nature. And it might be a relationship, it might be a spouse, it might be a friend, it might be a work situation, it might be just some expectations, it might be control itself going into his hands that you just say, God, I don't know what's going to happen if I let this go, but I'm going to trust you with it. The miracle in this story, the multiplying of the loaves, is that the miracle didn't happen in Jesus' hands. It actually happened in the hands of his disciples. When they gave the provisions they had and they put it into his hands, he doesn't take things from us. He doesn't hoard it for himself. He, in return, blessed it, and then he put it back in their hands. Releasing that control for you will bless you. It'll be blessed. So Jesus, this is your body, that you demonstrated a life, that you gave everything for us so that we could walk into a life of victory and blessing with you, that we would come to know you through your deeds and actions of what you did on earth. This is your life. This cup represents the blood of the new covenant. The new covenant, Jesus gave this new commandment. He said, new commandment I give you, love one another the way I loved you. In the same way that you've experienced the love of God, the mercy of God, the comfort of God, love one another and do this in remembrance of me. Couple things. I don't know what you need to move into his hands today. We're going to have the prayer teams come up here, and we're going to have lots of people to pray today. If you're having a hard time actually trusting him with something, I'm just asking you to come and talk to somebody about that today, because I know the fruit of how good this can be for you. We're just going to have a conversation. Maybe somebody will speak truth to you. Secondly, there's some people in this room dealing with trauma. We recognize that. We're here for you. Don't leave today. Don't run away. Don't hide in a dark corner. We had a picture some years ago of this gymnasium being a place full of cobwebs and dirt and garbage on the floor. And I think from that, we realize that this is the church that brings the mess into the worship place. We walk into this place with our mess in exchange for something better. That's our church. We just acknowledge it. Don't leave today. You come and you get prayer. You talk to somebody. Don't deal with it on your own. Let the family deal with it. Thirdly, We talked about the nature of God, a couple things. We talked about him as a healer. Some of you have sickness in your body, and it's been a long time. You haven't seen what you've been hoping for. I'm telling you today, his nature has not changed. I would love for you to come for prayer. Miracles happen when you move. We need you to move today. Fourth, Jehovah Jireh, the provider. He provides for you. Every blessing has come from his hands and will return to his hands, everything that he's given you. We've been talking about the 1% challenge, and this is just a great surrender moment for our church. We all have something in common, and it's our finances. It's our control of money. And we've been talking about how to give more to God, how to release that to him. I've got about 100 forms here of a direct deposit as we get ready for the banquet tonight. This form represents not what you give, it represents how you give. And how you give matters to the church. When you give when you can, sporadically, that's great. But you know what really helps the family? When we can plan and we can meet people's needs by planning and getting ready to meet those needs, by you having a regular amount come out of your account into the church's account so we can meet needs in real time. We don't have to wait for when you feel good about giving or when you have money and when you don't. This is just a simple surrender moment saying, God, I haven't experienced you like this yet. And I just encourage you to come. I've got 100 of these. I would love for these to see gone today. And you can enter into a great banquet tonight with expectation, a hope to meet this God that maybe you don't understand yet. So that's my blessing for us all. We're going to sing a bit. Feel free to stick around. There's some healing happening in the room. Prayer team's here. Parents, you have to go dismiss your kids. Before we go, we're coming back here today at 4:30. That door's open. The kids' registration at 4:30. Supper begins at 5. Bring some food. Bring some friends. This is a great place to bring our mess and to also find this God in new ways again. God bless you.